Right, hello everybody and welcome to a train simulator video. Today we should be driving the class 390 Pendolino from Euston to Birmingham New Street on the West Coast Main Line South route. So the first thing we need to do is turn off the pause menu and then we'll just get the train set up. So we do have the Armstrong Powerhouse sound pack installed on this multiple unit, so if we just press T to open the doors, then Shift and W to insert the master key, and then S to put the train into gear, acknowledge the automatic warning system, then the tilt alarm, and then the speed supervision alarm. And then if we press S to put the train into neutral, we'll press Ctrl D to turn on the vigilance device, and we'll also press Y to turn off the driver reminder appliance, and H for the headlights. So this is the West Coast Main Line South route. It was released a few months ago for Train Simulator 2021 and is on Steam. I just recently picked this up in the March Madness Steam sale for about 30% off. And when the route was originally released at $24.99, when the route was first released, the scenery wasn't quite right most notably at Euston and Birmingham. And also the route had a few performance issues, not just the route itself but also the rolling stock, some of the rolling stock that was included with it. I believe the major offenders were the Pendolino and the Class 350, and since then the route has had a couple of hot fixes for it, or updates, just to make the route run a little bit more smoother, and fixed a few of the scenery issues. So if we just quickly go outside, I shall... That's the rather loud brake squeal on the D0 there. So one of the first things that was immediately apparent was the bridge. With the original bridge that was in, the overhead line was clipping through the road. So that has been sorted out, and the style of the bridge has been changed, and also this particular platform sign was also clipping through the bridge because the bridge was a bit too big, so that has been fixed. Also, there was a bit of a lack of detail around it inside Euston Station itself, mainly with platform clutter, and also the passenger gangways. These were very basic before, so the signage and the gates weren't actually here on the route's first release, but they have since been added in the update, and also the picture of the shops in the background, that has been added in as well. So Euston is a station that I'm very familiar with. I've been through it quite a few times when I've been coming to London to visit relatives in the area. So it's quite a bit more recognisable now than what it was when it was first released. So I have actually had a play with this route prior to doing this video, but this is my first video of the route itself. So what we shall do now is we shall go back to our train. Because this scenario is about 85 minutes long. As you can probably see, we are playing a career scenario, and this is the one that comes with the route. It's the only route to use for Pendolino. It's the only scenario to use for Pendolino. Should also note that I've also recently installed the Major Wales Class 390 Revamp pack, which adds a few extra liveries, so you get the older version liveries and extra nameplates. Also fixes a tilt issue with this particular model where the train wouldn't tilt. So I'll leave the relevant links down to the DLC featured below. So we're departing with a 15 miles per hour speed restriction. Now do 25 miles per hour. We are taking the underpass route out of Euston, so in a moment we will be dropping down a severe gradient. Now do 30. So as we leave Euston, the speed limits will gradually get higher. Now going to apply some power. So we're now ascending Camden Bank, which is the most challenging gradient of the scenario. In the early days, there used to be a stationary steam engine at the top of this hill, and that would cable all the trains up the incline. Apparently, it wasn't so much the worry that the trains couldn't actually get the trains themselves couldn't get up the hill. I think it was more to do with the noise and economy and all that. Line speed is now increased to 50 miles per hour and the gradient has levelled out. So I'm just going to ease off the acceleration. Just going to shut the power off now. And we are now entering Primrose Hill Tunnel. This isn't the original bore. This bore was added when the West Coast Main Line was quadrupled in the 1870s. Now do up to 55 miles per hour. So we'll speed up again. With the Pendolino, you've got to be especially vigilant with the speed because it has speed supervision on board. We can now accelerate up to 80 miles per hour. On the far right are the DC lines, so called because when they were built they were originally electrified on the third rail. And the DC lines are used as part of London Overground's Euston to Watford Junction service. Line speed is now 100 miles per hour. Just past Queen's Park, where the Bakerloo line emerges from the deep level tube tunnels and shares the same pair of tracks with the DC lines all the way to Harrow and Wealdstone. Just going to shut the power off now as we reach the line speed. In a moment we will be able to do 105 miles per hour. And as we're about to pass through the Euston area, in fact you can probably just notice it now, we've lost our overhead wires, or the game is struggling to load them in, and that is because of a scenery loft issue. Basically there's too many lofts for the game to load, and so the game has therefore decided it doesn't want to load in the overhead wires. Can now do 120 miles per hour. So we will regain the overhead wires after Wembley. Having just passed beneath us, the Bakerloo line, the Bakerloo and DC lines are now on our left. And I'm just going to shut the power off as we reach 125 miles per hour. Unfortunately, there is a bug in Train Simulator where once you start to reach 125, the game will start penalising you for speeding. Probably just noticed the line light drop out there. Pendolino does have a neutral section functionality. Just past beneath the Metropolitan Main Line and the Chiltern Line Aylesbury branch. Past the London Overground Class 378. You do get quite a substantial amount of rolling stock with this route by default. Apart from the Pendolino, you also get an Avanti Livered Class 221 Super Voyager. You also get the 378, the London Midland Class 350-0 EMU with the Stroke 1, Stroke 2 and Stroke 3 subvariants. You also get the Southern Class 377 Electro Star and the Freightliner Powerhaul Class 66. So if this is your first route for Train Simulator, the rolling stock on offer is quite substantial. Pendolino does have a speed set function, but I think it's better to drive without it, as you can keep to speed a little bit better. Just have to constantly fan the power controller back and forth. Just need to slow the train down now for an upcoming 110 miles per hour speed restriction. And we shall be thinking about slowing down for Watford Junction now. Apparently it's only really the Pendolinos that just terminate at New Street that are scheduled to call at Watford Junction. Most of them just run straight through non-stop. And on the odd occasion when they do stop, it's either to set down or pick up only. And we're aiming to stop right at the end of the platform. And we'll just stop about here. So we'll just open up the doors. And what we shall do is we'll just take a quick look around Watford Junction. No, that's not the button I wanted to press. I wanted to press the pause brake button. So Watford Junction is quite a busy station. It's a terminus of the DC lines. It's also the interchange with the St Albans Abbey line. The trains use this particular platform, and that currently operates with Class 319s. I think that is due to change to Class 350s once the current operator gets their Class 730s in service, and then they can cascade the units down. I've only ever been to Watford once. Just went there quite a few years ago now, just to do some bus spotting with my dad. So we didn't go through on the train. We actually travelled through directly on the bus from Harrow. It was Route 258, and this is one of the extremities of where the London buses go to. And then after that's the local operator Uno, I think. But yeah, I think the scenery around the station here in the route looks pretty good. That's the bus station there, so that's quite well populated as well. So we shall unpause and get back to the train. In fact, whilst we are waiting, I'm trying to get a quick screenshot. Frame rates are a little bit choppy in Watford, in the London area, as they usually are in the train sim game. But we will start to smoothen out as we leave Watford. So after Watford we shall be calling at Coventry, then Birmingham International, and then New Street. Okay, so departing Watford Junction, the speed limit is 110 miles per hour. And we've got 75 miles to go to Coventry. Here the lines briefly split apart for Watford Tunnel. Just like Primrose Hill, we're not travelling through the original bore. The original bore is on the slow lines. Speed limit has now increased to 115. And we can now do 125 miles per hour. And this will be the maximum achievable speed. The Pendolinos were designed with 140 mph running in mind, but due to the type of signalling involved, they can only do. They have been physically limited to 125. If you want to run trains at speeds higher than 125 in the UK, it requires in-cab signalling. Just going to knock the power down now. Try and keep the train at 124, 125-ish. I think we've just passed Apsley Station. Just past an Electro Star there. Now I need to get ready to slow down to 115 miles per hour. As we pass a warning board for 150, as we pass a warning board for it, where we don't get an automatic warning system alarm associated with it. And I believe this is for Berkhamsted, I think. Yeah, we're just coming up on Berkhamsted now, and I just want to briefly pause the game here because this was another point of contention. It was this bridge. I think this has just been moved out slightly because it was causing some clipping issues. So it's quite a tight curve here. So yeah, I believe that was fixed. When the route was updated. Could be wrong. So in fact we'll just speed through here and we shall get a track site, we'll get a platform shot. So if I just swing my camera around with my Xbox controller, there we go. And I've just had a vigilance alarm, so should have turned that off, to be honest. So we're going to have to wait until the train comes to a complete stop now. Okay, so we can now start applying power now. And that 350 we just overtook has now overtaken us. We should catch back up to it. So I've just caught back up to at 350 now. So it's slowing down for its next station stop. Depending on the subclass, the 350 has a maximum speed of either 100 or 110 miles per hour. I can't remember specifically which subclass it was that got upgraded with 110 mile an hour running in mind. Okay, so we can now drop off our power now. It's actually very nice for once to be passing AI, but when you're coming near an AI train you don't get such a massive drop in FPS. I know that was a particular problem with the with the version trains delivered to Class 390 Pendolino, but has long since which came out a few years ago with scenarios for West Coast Main Line Trent Valley, but it did since get taken down after Dovetail's license agreement with Virgin had ended. And I think Armstrong Powerhouse tried to fix it in with their sound pack, but I don't think it really. I didn't really notice any improvement. What I have since done is I've since locked Train Simulator to run at 30 FPS, just so that the drop down to 15 FPS isn't as noticeable, and it's also reduced the load on my CPU as well. Long term, I would like to invest in an M.2 SSD to make Train Sim run a little bit more smoother. But having said that, I do think that this fast load update has improved things somewhat. But I can't quite put my finger on it. I know it's mainly to load scenarios from .ap files a lot faster. I mean, ideally what I would like to see from Train Sim in the future, if they're still keen on updating it, is multi-core support for processors. Because Train Sim likes to work on one single core. Just had to slow down to 110 miles per hour. One thing that I've noticed that the route has been or I and other people have noticed that the route has been lacking in Train Simulator is the EPS speed boards. EPS stands for Enhanced Permissible Speed, and they are enhanced speed restrictions which can be taken advantage of by the Class 390s and 221s with their ability to tilt in the corners, which allows them to go around curves safer at higher speeds. The non-EPS stock, the maximum speed limit on the West Coast Main Line is 110. So we can now do 125 once again, and we've got about 50 miles to go to Coventry now. Just going to try and get an outside shot and just pause the game briefly. Press the. I'll just turn off the vigilance device as well, just briefly. Okay, so just had to cut the power off there. That's about 3 points there for speed for running at the speed limit. In fact, that's a bug I would definitely like to see fixed at some point if I can. that AWS warning doesn't apply to us. Notice I'm having to be a little bit firmer with me press of E for the vigilance device. We're now passing Milton Keynes station. We're just about to pass through platforms. Which opened in 1987. And it's also where the southern trains terminate on the services from Clapham Junction and East Croydon. I think if you were to ask me whether I prefer the East Coast or West Coast Main Line, I would definitely pick the West Coast Main Line over the East Coast. With the East Coast Main Line built for straight speed in mind, a lot of the sections are like dead straight track, whereas with the West Coast Main Line it's a little bit more curvy. So it's certainly very fun to be blasting the route in the Pendolino and tilting round the corners. And also you got the major challenges of the Scottish scenery of the Lake District in Cumbria and the hills at Shap and Beatock. Having said that, the East Coast Main Line does get a lot curvier in the northern part of the route. And it runs along the coast for the east coast for a few more miles than what the west coast main line does along the west coast of the country. Got about 30 miles to go to Coventry now, and this is where the line towards Northampton leaves us. Unfortunately, the Northampton line is not included in this route, which is a shame really, because it sort of kills. It's one less destination for the London Midland 350s, so it sort of kills the scenario viability a bit for them. Just past a Super Voyager, pair of them. They were built in. They were built as 5-car sets. I'll just turn off the vigilance device here and we'll try and get some more external shots. Right, we've got a speed change coming up for the first time in quite a while. It's just down to 120, it's nothing significant. Yeah, so far I'm very much enjoying the West Coast Main Line, South Route. Especially when running it with AP enhanced stock. I would certainly like to know what you all think. So if you want to, if you have the route, and you can let us know your thoughts in the comments section down below. And if you like a route with high-speed passenger and even with high-speed passenger stopping services and even intensive stop-start services with the London Overground, Euston to the Watford Junction services, I would highly recommend this route. There's also some freight potential as well. Especially with the Royal Mail Class 325s starting out from Euston. You could run them via Birmingham towards Warrington and Shieldmoor, where their depots are. So on the HUD now we've got another speed drop coming up to 110 miles per hour. So we're going to get ready to slow down for that. One thing I have noticed is the sensitivity on the D key there on the keyboard. I only pressed it once and it jumped down from step 1 to step 3 of braking. Not sure whether that's an issue with my keyboard. So the 110 is just for this particular tunnel here. think with me having travelled on the West Coast Main Line numerous times in my lifetime, you'd think I'd know where all the landmarks are and what every single station was, but it's quite a lot of information to take in. Ideally looking forward to this year. I hope with the cancellation of my holiday abroad on a cruise ship in the summer, we were meant to be going around the Mediterranean on P&O's Britannia. Fortunately, because of the way we are now, that is not happening, so I'm now looking forward to probably upgrading my setup here, because at the moment I'm just sitting. I'm actually just sitting on my bed in front of the computer, because the room that my computer's in is very, very small. So I'm looking forward to moving into what was my brother's bedroom. He's now moved out and he's got a house of his own. So I'm hoping to move into that room and take the bed out of this room and then get a proper computer chair. And then a slightly bigger desk, and I'm looking into getting, once that is all done, I'm looking into getting a secondary monitor for my computer. So I'm hoping that could be done possibly by the end of this year, but we'll just have to see how things go with restrictions and whatnot. Fingers crossed we might be able to get out and about in a bit in the summer as well. Hopefully to some bus rallies, because that's what I've really that's one of the things I've certainly missed the last year, going out with our friends in the Barrow Transport group to various vintage bus rallies. So fingers crossed we'll be able to do that at some point. There's also a few places I'd like to get out and about in my car as well. Just passing Rugby now. We're getting a diversionary route. Where the West Coast Main Line splits. London to Birmingham was the first section of the West Coast Main Line. The line that goes straight ahead goes via the Trent Valley, which is the more direct route. To the northwest, to Crewe in the northwest. The one by Birmingham is a little bit longer and a little bit longer. Still quite fast though. Got 100 with the line speed still at 125. One of the places where line-side locations where I would like to go in the summer, hopefully this year, is Scout Green on the West Coast Main Line, which is near Penrith in Cumbria. Probably like to go with the intention of capturing the Class 325 Royal Mail units, But they don't always run, they only run as and when they're required to do so. And even if they do run, sometimes when running coupled up with probably a Class 90 locomotive or a 66, because they are not very reliable units, apparently. So they don't tend to run under their own power very often. Talking about the 325, Armstrong Powerhouse recently released a Class 325 enhancement pack. I'm sort of oohing and ahhing about trying to get it, so I probably will pick it up eventually. Well, it's not something on the to buy list at the moment. I think we're going to be late into Coventry if we don't speed up. Probably means I'm going to have to try and brake a little bit later. About a couple of miles away from Coventry. I really don't think we're going to be making up the time. I think that that emergency stop with the vigilance device cost us. Got to drop right down to 75 miles per hour now as well. So I'm going to have to put the brakes hard on. Just received advance warning for that now. That's we're coming down to stop at Coventry now. So instead of aiming for the 75, we'll be aiming to stop at the station now. I think there was a little bit of an issue at Coventry as well with the platform. I think it was this particular side of a platform. I think it might have been to do with the gap between the train and the platform. I think. Can't quite remember now what the issue was here at Coventry. We'll have a look at the platform. I think it was about here actually. I think the platform might have been clipping into the train a little bit, and we are late into Coventry, so I'm expecting a time penalty for this. What I should have done was cloned the scenario and made it a standard one, so I wouldn't have to worry about the score. There we go. We'll stop here anyway, because that's where the stop mark is. Yeah, yeah, there we are. yeah, the platform's a bit too close to the train, so there's some clearance issues, to use the technical term. So I don't think that can be fixed now. It's penalty. It's not too bad. We've just gained 150 points, so that's not too bad. So next stop is now at Birmingham International. Not too far away from New Street now. We're only about 20 miles away. So this has been quite a good scenario. I've quite enjoyed it. It's been nicely populated with AI. It's run rather smoothly as well, like in terms of performance. Certainly been a much better driving experience as well than the previous video when I first looked at the cross city route and the new and the class 323. So there will be a link to that video if you have not already seen that one. It is quite long though. It's about an hour and a half long. Because not only am I driving pretty much a full length of that route, I'm also looking at the stations that we're stopping at as well. So by the time I got to Bromsgrove, it really took, the driver had actually taken a lot of energy out of me, so I was just about ready for bed by the time I got to Bromsgrove. Just need to put the brakes on a little bit. Speed limit's now 100 miles per hour. So I think we're sub 125 now all the way into New Street. So I think the maximum speed is only about 100, 110 on this section now. So if you really want a route where you can run the Pendolino at 125 miles an hour, then this is definitely the route. You don't get so much as a chance on the northern section of the West Coast Main line, especially between after, especially like through the Lake District, and more after Carlisle because of the numerous curves and bends in the route. There's also quite a lot more variety on the southern section, as I've alluded to earlier, with all the services it can do. Bar, unfortunately, services to Northampton. There is a freeware version of West Coast Main Line south between London and Birmingham, which was released a few years, which has been out for a few years now, and released well before this one. But it does need quite a few requirements to run the route as intended. Or if you were to ask me which of those routes to recommend, I will recommend this one now over the freeware one, because obviously with the payware one on Steam you don't need any prerequisites to run the route. It's all custom made, so it doesn't rely on any assets from other routes to run. Now do 110 miles per hour. Didn't notice that speed change there because I was talking away. But having said that, now we're encountering another speed drop back to 100. And we are fast approaching international. I'm going to get ready to start thinking about stopping at international, probably with about a mile to go, because we're doing it under 100 miles per hour. If we were doing more than that, I would start thinking about slowing the train down. So we'll start braking down now. Just brake down slowly. I think again we'll be looking to stop down at the end of the platform. And here we are at international, bang on the 11 car stop mark. So this is a station I've only ever been to once in my lifetime. So I think when I was about 10 I went with my dad to the Model Railway exhibition here at the NEC. So I think they've done quite a nice job with this. With a look of New Street, the British Rail sign is a it's 3D model there. I think it looks okay. That's what we shall do just before I set off. We shall just get a quick screenshot. screenshot here, and we'll just go for the other side very quickly before we depart. Okay. Yeah, that day when we went was quite interesting. I think we had a relatively. It was really because of the journey back home that I really remember. That's the thing I remember about it most. I think what happened was when we were going home, our direct train to Lancaster was mysteriously cancelled, but we didn't have any notice about it. So what we ended up doing, we had to get the next available train into New Street, which was it was Network South East Limited Class 321, which I think by that time was running as Silverlink. So we got that down to New Street, and then we had to get, I think it was Liverpool bound service down to Crewe, and then we had to which was an 87, I think. This was before the Pendolinos were introduced, so it's still all local hold stock. So it was 87 to Crewe. Then we had a HST down to Preston, but we got down to Preston so late we'd missed the last train back to Barrow, so they had to put on a taxi for us. Only problem was the taxi had to go via Windermere. So by the time we got home well past my bedtime. I think we got back home at probably something like 20 past 11. So that was a very long time ago. I'm surprised I still remember that. Well, I would, whilst we're on the subject of model railways, I would say that Train Sim is very much my model railway now. Because I was interested in them previously, but then I sort of lost interest. When as you get older and real life starts to, the impracticalities. Our house is we can't really have a model railway in our house because it's quite small. So Train Simulator is definitely the best compromise. Plus, Train Sim is a cheaper hobby as well, a much cheaper hobby as well. Because you probably for the best models, you're probably paying. You're probably going to be ending up paying £100 plus. And even then, it's only one train, one livery. But different strokes for different folks, anyway. So can't remember the last time I actually went to it. I think the last exhibition, because I used to go quite regularly to the railway exhibitions at Barrow every Easter, and then they changed it. They changed it to October. It used to happen at the 4 and 28 in the town centre, but then they switched it to the sixth form college because it was a little bit cheaper for them to run it there. And I think it was after that switch I kind of lost interest in my model railways, and I was more volunteering with our bus group because whenever the railway exhibition was on, our bus group would run a free vintage bus service around the town. And since we moved to the sixth form college, we started operating a service from the town to the sixth form via the train station. We'd run it to connect with the trains visitors for the model railway exhibition. Okay, so we've got advanced warning now. Coming up to a 65 miles per hour speed restriction. We are getting closer to Birmingham now, so the speed limits are going to drop quite significantly. So we'll start slowing down for that now. And I'm going to have to slow right down to 45 now, because otherwise the speed supervision will shout at me. And then after the next couple of signals, we've got a 30 miles per hour speed restriction coming up. And then straight after that is a 10 miles per hour speed restriction, so I'll probably be aiming to slow down more towards the 10. We are on a sharp downward gradient as well. The 10 mile an hour speed restriction is for the complicated point work at New Street Station. So we're going to start slowing down now. I've just put a step 1 brake application on. So I've got the train down to about 10 miles per hour now. So we are on a steep 1 in 66 gradient. So I'm just going to watch the train speed here. I think one of the facts I've neglected to mention also is that when this route was first released, this scenario that we are playing was released in the fog. So since they updated the route, they also changed the weather for this particular scenario. But I think, yeah, credit where credit is due to Dovetail Games for taking on board the feedback that people had with this route and fixing most of the problems. But I think the real reason why the route was released in the state that it was because of tight deadlines set by higher management. And here we are at New Street, so I'll just shut the train down. And we'll just wait for the instruction to clear. Probably not the best place to get a screenshot there, the way the lighting is. Okay, nice, fast and steady run. Good work. This is the end of your shift today. Thank you. Yeah, that was a very enjoyable scenario. Really enjoyed that. We did get a couple of speeding penalties, but we were actually running within the speed limit there. And also we had that emergency stop with the DSD. But apart from that, thank you very much for watching this video. Hope you've enjoyed it, and take care.